Hi everyone, and welcome to today's event. We're delighted to have you here on Hopin, where you can enjoy networking sessions and fun activities throughout the event. In order to get the most out of Hopin, let's check out some of its key features. On the left-hand sidebar, you'll see several different icons. The camera icon, where you are now, is the main stage. This is where all the sessions will take place. You've likely noticed the handshake icon. This is our networking area. Here, you can connect on a one-to-one basis with another participant who's already in the networking area. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll find interactive functions that you can use throughout the session. First, our speakers may also use polls and Q&As, so please participate in those when prompted. And finally, for those who would prefer to listen in another language, we'll be offering translations in the languages shown on screen now. Please click on the Translation tab to listen to the audio track in your preferred language. Now, let's get started with today's agenda.
Hello! Hola! Oiê! My name is Patrick and I work for the Google Play here in LATAM, in São Paulo, Brazil. And welcome to our second day of LATAM Apps Week. Today, this track, we're going to talk about engagement and monetization. So let's start the day. First of all, some logistics, some house rules. We have a help desk here at the Hopin, at this event. So if you have any problem, just go there, see if the team can help you. Just send a question there. Also, we have live translations to Portuguese and Spanish. So feel free to change for a language that you feel it's more comfortable for this event. And also Q&A. If you have any question during this track, just send a question and our team will answer in this event or even afterwards. And as I said, we are starting now the second track for today's event, and we're going to have a third track on the end of the day, around 4 p.m. here in Brazil. So the agenda for today. We're going to start with Richard talking about grow with Google Play Commerce. Then we're going to move to Scott talking about 6 ways to maximize engagement and monetization. Then we have Jenny talk about diversifying your revenue. And we are going to end the day with 2 developers talking about their best practices, what they learned through this year, and they're going to share with you. So stick to the end. And without any more waiting, I want to invite Richard to talk about Google Play Commerce. Rich, the stage is yours.
Hey everybody, my name is Rich Baldessari. I'm a Commerce Product Specialist on Google Play. Thanks so much for taking the time to join and listen. Today we're going to be going over a few things that you may already be aware of, but also a bunch of stuff that's coming soon to commerce. And so helping you with a sustainable business is a core part of Google Play's mission. And so we know that you need to find different ways to monetize, and Google Play Commerce is definitely the way to do that. So what does Google Play Commerce do? Well, we focus on 2 main areas. In short, we're focused on selling digital goods through either IAP, so in-app purchases, or subscriptions. Google Play Commerce gives you access to many innovative features to ensure that you have both the investment in your business and in the technical aspects of your app. Here's just a quick overview of some of the features that we have throughout the full life cycle of your apps. Over the last few months, we've made some important updates to Google Play, so I'm going to take a moment just to go recap those. So first of all, starting on July 1st of this year, we reduced the service fee for digital goods and services sold on Google Play to 15% for the first $1 million in revenue that you make each year. This means that the savings can be reinvested into growth, scale up, hire new engineers, add to the marketing staff, or increase server capacity, whatever you need in order to move forward and grow. We also know that some people operate other businesses, and so some of the console updates, So again, what our focus is on our efforts to make and help you grow. And so the way that you grow is through acquiring new users. So one of the best ways to acquire new users into your app is to go global. This is all about growth. Google Play Commerce is here to support. Google Play Commerce has over 2.5 billion monthly active users worldwide, and it gives you the opportunity to reach out and monetize to all of them. However, you wouldn't be able to connect with this vast number of users unless you offer a variety of payment methods that users know and trust. Google Play Billing connects you with 2 billion people in over 150 markets worldwide who can easily transact through their preferred payment methods. Users prefer their preference of local payments also. So Google Play Commerce offers over 290 local forms of payment that your customers are familiar with, makes them willing to convert. However, growth is always a challenge, especially at scale, but it's a lot easier with help. And so we make growth easier with Google Play Commerce support. Payment integrations are on a global scale. They're often labor intensive, time consuming, complex, costly. It takes a lot to grow your app at a global rate. Whereas on commerce, the team handles a lot of these highly complex tasks for you. So order management, tax processing, notifications, all these things are managed through the platform. Not only are payment methods and processing important, but we also need to be accessible and trustworthy. Users' trust is reflected in the willingness for them to transact on the app. Google's brand and familiar one-click flow streamlines the checkout. Users are comfortable paying for an app or a game in the Play Store because they know the information is safe with Google. It's also because they're familiar with the end-to-end experiences, which is the same regardless of the app they choose to explore on Google Play. So this is especially important when users are trying new apps or meeting with unfamiliar brands. They still have a familiar way and a trusted source for their payment methods. Google Play Commerce also offers users a number of different controls, such as in the Subscription Center. There, users can manage their subscriptions, re-engage with a lapsed subscription through the subscribe functionality. So when they're managing other subscriptions, they may be reminded of yours as well, allowing them to re-engage simply and smoothly without going through the full billing flow. Now, you might already be using some of these features, but first I'm going to give you a quick reminder that may inspire you to do new things within your app or try other different features that we offer. For your acquisition, Google Play Commerce offers features like intro pricing and free trials. For example, we've noticed that the majority of new users will start with new subscriptions and some sort of discount. Moreover, features like intro pricing and free trials can be applied at different stages of the life cycle, from acquisition all the way to re-engage and retention. Promo codes are another great example. We currently offer 2 versions, one-time codes and custom codes. One-time codes are alphanumeric codes that they can be used for free trials, free paid items and apps, or extended free trials. Custom codes allow you to use what we call vanity codes or things like that around the holidays. Custom codes are great for extended free trials and subscription SKUs. They can also be used for promotions, for paid and owned media, especially across, example, like a holiday campaign. You can even use them as rewards, friends and family discounts, influencers, things like that. So if you're running a subscription business, one thing that I wanted to call out, which has been live for a little while now, is grace period and account hold. Account hold is required for all subscriptions, but grace period can be modified and adjusted. So you can test to see if this is a good use for your users, allowing them to still retain access to the subscription even after their payment may have failed, making it a little bit smoother and a happier process for the user. We recently scaled these 2 features across the ecosystem and have seen a significant impact both in churn reduction and an increase in recovery rates across all apps, regardless of their category. However, if a user does unfortunately decline or decide to cancel, you do have the opportunity to intervene. So you could perhaps offer something like an upgrade or a downgrade to their service. So maybe they're on the premium service and you want to give them the opportunity to downgrade to their basic service as opposed to canceling and then hoping they go back through your sign-up flow. Or if user is unhappy, offer them a free month to apologize for customer service using deferred billing. If a user is determined to cancel, Google Play actually gives the opportunity to communicate with them outside of the app or inside the unsubscribe flow. So using subscription benefits, you can communicate 4 bullet points that explain why your app is great and why they might not want to unsubscribe. Add details about the value that you provide to them that they may have forgotten. And then if they continue, you can choose to collect data using cancellation survey. Results from the cancellation survey are available in the console. As I mentioned earlier, even after a user is voluntarily churned, they can re-engage with your app through the Sub Center. There's plenty of time after the user cancels for them to change their mind. And with Google Play real-time developer notifications, you'll know the moment that a subscription changes state and absolutely the moment that a user cancels. So all that said, we continue to work hard and we're improving the ecosystem, launching new features, and all of these are based on extensive feedback that was provided by developers like you. So I wanted to take a quick moment and just thank you all for all of your feedback and your cooperation on many of these EAPs. So as I mentioned, in early access program, sometimes it's limited to certain developers, but I want to give you all an update on the things that we have in the works that will be coming into launch soon. So all these updates are intended to make Google Play Commerce better for monetization platform for you. In the rest of my presentation, I'll explain Google Play Commerce helps monetize in more detail, but I'll also give you some of the benefits of Google Play Commerce and summarize flow through access to global payments, simple implementation and maintenance, user trust, and then tools. To help you optimize in the way that you sell, we'll soon be launching multi-quantity purchases, enabling a seamless user experience to buy multiple items and unlock new ways for you to sell. Users no longer need to run through their buy flow each time that they want to purchase a different SKU. Now they can simply select a number of them or multiple items of the same type that they wish to check out and then transact in a single one-click flow. Multi-line subscriptions will enable you to sell multiple products through one part of a subscription. So you can imagine adding, removing, upgrading, and downgrading products as they subscribe. So imagine moving from basic up to premium, then moving back down to basic again, or adding a sports package directly before a big game that otherwise you wouldn't have been subscribed to. Personally, I'm proud of this one that's launching soon. Prepaid plans will be available globally in the near future. So this one allows you to offer a prepaid plan that gives the user access to the recurring content that would be on a normal subscription, but only for a fixed period of time. Play will notify the user whenever their access is about to expire and allow them to top up their service. You'll also be notified in the back end with real-time developer notifications. So unlike selling them an IAP for a given period of time to subscription content, here you'll have all the benefits of a subscription SKU like real-time developer notifications without the full commitment to a recurring SKU. So for users that are hesitant, maybe don't want to set up recurring payments, this is a great option. It'll allow them to build trust, familiarity, and comfort with your app before transitioning maybe over to a lower priced recurring SKU. So utilizing Google Play Commerce ensures continued investment in both your business and your technical aspects. So we're here to support you, enable your access and your support, and I sincerely appreciate your time, and I look forward to your questions if you have any. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Scott.
Hi there, I'm Scott Gordon, one of the strategic partner managers at Google Play, and I work specifically with app developers that are monetizing. I'm very excited to be here, but I'm even more excited that you're here because while I can't see you, I know you're out there, and my goal for this session is to tap into your motivation to grow your business and give you some really actionable tips, 6 in fact, and those will be coming right from the real pros, not me, our other developers on Google Play. But if you need more incentive, I'll be rewarding everyone in the audience with something priceless right after tip number 6. So keep your eyes out for that. Now, my friend Rich just walked you through all the features of Google Play billing, but I'll tell you a secret, which is the best way to monetize all your users is to turn them into ultra committed users. And we know that's not easy. You got to get them through a lot of steps, not just installing, which is hard enough, but then you have to get them onboarded successfully, get them to become an active user, and ultimately you want them to become a committed user, a super fan of your app. And you need to do this all while preventing users from disengaging and becoming lapsed, or even worse, churned. So we're going to dive into the tips and some of the ways that you can get folks through this chain, get them to ultra committed, and ultimately make them super fans of your app. So number one, and this is my favorite one actually of all of my tips here, and that's store listing experiments. It's a tool that's free for everyone to use, and it's not used nearly enough, in my personal opinion. You can look in the Google Play console, and you can see how many users are visiting your store listing, but then not actually downloading. And if you think about that, it's like if you owned a store and users were coming right up to the door and then going, no, I don't think so, and stepping away. That's horrible. You can improve that. And you can do it without any engineering work, which is pretty great. So it's time for a poll. I have a question for you, and you're going to be able to vote by opening the poll tab on the right side of your screen near the chat. And so here's the question. How many store listing experiments have you ever run on your app? And you can see the choices there, 0 to 1, 2 to 5, 6 plus. So go ahead and vote. Let me know how many you've done, and then we'll take a look at the results as they're coming in. And again, this is how many store listing experiments you've done ever on your app. All right, so should we take a look and see what votes are coming in? This is sort of what I expected. Let's keep watching a little bit and see if these numbers change at all. Okay, well, while you continue to vote, and please do continue to vote, I will tell you this is not surprising. Despite the fact that this is a free tool in the console that anyone can use, it's something that I think all of us don't do enough. And so I want to say that no matter what you put down there, whether it was 0 and you haven't done any yet, or whether you've done 5 or more, you should be doing more. You should do more than that, because even our top developers, they recognize that one experiment isn't enough, and that the way to find the most uplift is to keep iterating. And the icon really is the best place to do that. And here are some examples you can see from our developer who worked on Angry Birds Pop. And each one of those rows, row 1, then 2, and 3, were different experiments that they ran, and were able to see uplift in each one down to the last one, and then they held with the control. So keep iterating, keep trying, because getting more users from your store listing to installation is a huge win. So let's jump on to number 2. Let's say you got that install, amazing. Now you've got to get that user onboarded. And at the heart of getting users onboarded successfully is your app's core action. Is this a term you have heard before or used before? I think of it as, what is your app's value to the user? What is the core action, the thing that when users are completing it over and over, that actually is reinforcing your app's value? So examples are there on the right. If you're a ride-hailing app, the more users keep hailing cars and taking rides, that's showing the value of your app. But yours might not be as clear-cut. And in fact, we experienced that with one of our developers, Hopper, which is a travel booking app. And they saw, when they looked at their data, that actually users who came into the app and watched a flight, which means they're looking at the ongoing pricing of that flight, those are the ones that had the highest retention, that went on to become super fans. So they actually built that right into their onboarding. They decided, this is our core action, watching a flight, and they made sure that every user who came in were directed to watch a flight. And in fact, if you want to get more users onboarded and avoid losing people right at that point, get users to your core action as quickly as possible. That core action is going to reinforce what is the value proposition of your app. And something to be aware of, don't get hung up on all the nice to know features. I know when you come into an app, you want to explain every little thing that you can do. But I would say don't worry about that. Jump right to that core action. And then you can sprinkle in some of the additional features as you go along. Now, I know not everybody's like that, and there may be users who are coming in and browsing that you may need to do some more convincing before dropping them right into the core action. But I would say try to get them there as soon as possible. AudioMac, an example here, saw that they were losing people during onboarding as they dropped them into search. And so instead, they decided, let's have folks pick out their favorite artists right away. And that way, we're demonstrating the core value. We're getting users to listen to a song that they love quickly. And then we can show them more of how they can find even more music. Now, one more pro tip for onboarding. Registration, we know, is super important, especially when it comes to apps, but it can also be a big place where there's drop-off. And so if you haven't looked at it yet, I would take a look at Google One Tap. And that's what lets users on Android sign up or sign in much, much faster using the Google account that they already have, that you know they have because they're on an Android device. So our friends Pinterest, actually, when they implemented this, they saw a 126% increase for signups using One Tap. And frankly, if it's good enough for Pinterest, it's good enough for me. So I think you should definitely check this out. It's an easy win for you. Now, let's go on to number 4. And this is a big one. This, I think, really sits at the heart of how you're going to keep folks to be engaged, because it's all about building habits with your app. And there's 4 steps to doing that. The first is tap into their motivation. Help users set goals so that you're already setting up that this app is going to be a part of their life, something that is going to help them achieve their goals. Then make it really easy to keep coming back and take action on, like we said, that core action that you have. Use triggers to remind them why they want to come back. And it's really easy for folks to get distracted, so make sure you're giving them a personalized message that says, hey, remember the goal you set? This is, don't lose track of that. And lastly, rewards. They not only provide the payoff, but they also drive that itch to come back again and again. And the example here is from 7, a 7-minute workout app. And right at the top, it sets this challenge for users to work out every day. And it gives them an incentive, a reward. You get to keep your hearts. Every day that you forget to work out, you lose one of those hearts. And if you lose all of them, you have to restart the challenge. So a little bit of gamification that taps into users' motivations. Now, if you're wondering how to make your app a habit, here are just a few thoughts, some sparks to get you thinking. And so the first, as it relates to motivation, is you can actually say, hey, what's your motivation? What are you here for? Why did you decide, say in this case, to want to study French? That gives you really useful information, especially later when you're going to want to trigger them. Number 2, make it really easy to jump into that core action. And this is an example of like big button, tap on it. Hey, this is the thing that you're supposed to do every time you come into the app. When it comes to triggers, you can certainly use push notifications, but why not let the user actually set the iteration, the time that they want to be notified? So it's not you bugging them, it's them getting the reminder from themselves. And lastly, think about rewards. Find more milestones, more reasons to celebrate the user. You can't overdo it on rewards. That is an important part of getting something to become a habit, is knowing that when you get to the end of it, you're going to get that reward. So now let's look at number 5. Act before it's too late to prevent disengagement and churn. You'll have a way to look at a user and have an idea of, are they starting to lapse? Are they perhaps potentially at risk of churning? And one of the big ways that you can sort of bring them back to act before they become lapsed or churned is to use the fear of missing out. We often say that sometimes the benefit you're offering something isn't as powerful as the thing that they'll lose if they don't keep going. If you have a subscription app, I should say, please read and use real-time developer notifications to actually be able to act at that moment when a user might be thinking about canceling, and you can use a message. Email push notifications can be that trigger, but it's important to be respectful of the user's needs. In this example, Clue is a period tracking app, and they use notifications to call out the other actions that users can take in the app. But most importantly, when the user does come back, they ask them, have your goals changed? Because they realized they were continuing to send messages based on what the user told them right at the top, and that didn't necessarily hold true. And then those notifications were, a pain and didn't feel like they were right on what the user's needs were. Okay, we've come to the end, number 6. Don't get distracted by too many metrics. I think this is the easiest mistake to make. We're so used to talking about minutes per user and days per DAU per MAU. And while that's important, I think the most important thing for engagement is to think about your core action and then set metrics based on that action for onboarding, activation, and commitment. How often are your users coming back to take part in the core action? How many times a week do they use the core action? How many times over the course of the first month do they use the core action? If you look at that and keep track of that for your users over time, that's going to give you a great idea of what's your actual engagement versus some of the industry standards. So I hope this session has motivated you and you're ready to take action on one of these tips. I know you can do it. And in fact, that's my trigger to reward you. And that reward is something priceless, as I said, and that is time. It's time for another short break. So we'll join you back here after a short break for Jenny, who's got some great tips on monetization.
Hi everyone, welcome back from the break. I'm Jenny Miles and I'm an apps growth consultant based near London. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks from top developers on how they're diversifying their revenue using hybrid monetization. Whether you're a subscriptions-only app or primarily monetized via in-app purchases, my hope is that some of the trends and tips that I'll be sharing today will inspire you to experiment with your own monetization strategy. So why are we focusing on this topic of revenue diversification today? First of all, there's a growing recognition that some users will never spend. Therefore, having a one-size-fits-all monetization model might not necessarily be the most optimal. Secondly, and this is particularly true for subscription apps, you might start to see diminishing returns when you're making incremental tweaks and optimizations to your subscriptions business, where you might hit a conversion ceiling. Thirdly, there's a real sort of growing need for segmentation, and by understanding different user behaviors, different segments, really you can then start to understand and target them with slightly different monetization models that better benefit them. And lastly, app developers are always looking for opportunities to explore for further growth, and so that's why we're going to be discussing this topic today. So to kick us off, I'm going to share with you some insights around what top developers are using for their top monetization models. And we're going to get a bit interactive now, and we're going to actually have a poll. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question. Within the hop-in window, if you look on the right-hand side, you should see a polls tab. And I would like you to access that to then choose what you think is the correct answer to this question. So the question is, what percentage of top apps globally have a hybrid, that's a subscriptions plus in-app purchase business model? Is it A, 10%, B, 25%, or C, 45%? So we should start to see some live results rolling through in a moment. And I'll just repeat the question in case you're still unsure. So what percentage of top apps globally have a hybrid, so that's a subscriptions plus IAP business model? So it looks like we're getting a few votes in. So far, it's kind of equally split between 25% and 45%. I'll give you a few more moments to see how that changes. It looks like everyone's following each other and potentially choosing the same option. Okay, I'll just wait a few more seconds. Okay, so it looks like everyone believes it's A. Let's have a look at the next slide and see what the correct answer is. So the correct answer is actually B, 25%. And so while you can see here, hybrid is actually the second most popular, it's of course no surprise that well over half of all developers on Play monetize primarily just via subscriptions. If we take a look at these monetization models used by top developers as well, you can see for each of these primary categories that are actually about half of apps in each of these categories will also monetize via in-app ads. So now if we take a look at which monetization models are most popular based on top app categories, we can see that subscriptions is mostly popular for apps like news and magazines, health and fitness and education, particularly those sorts of categories where there's that kind of long-term behavior change required, where people are going to keep on spending in order to reach their particular goals. And then if we look at which particular categories we see in-app purchase as being a more popular option from developers, it's typically more content-based, books and reference, comics, and also social as well. Hybrid, and again, what I'm talking about when I talk about hybrid here is subscriptions plus in-app purchases. Hybrid is mostly popular in categories like dating, social and communications, and comics as well. So they're really the categories that are sort of leading the charge on this new hybrid approach. Now, if we take a look at top Play apps across categories based on their region of origin, we can actually start to see here that if we look at just the kind of the top sort of cohort of apps, about 30% of top developers by region offer hybrid. Interestingly, for LATAM, we're actually seeing the majority of the most successful developers are using subscriptions at the moment. However, when we take a look at by region and at the sort of spender level, we see that up to 12% of all spenders are actually hybrid buyers, which means that they're purchasing both in-app purchases and subscriptions. And while that might sound like a small amount, the revenue that those buyers actually drive is about 27%. So already, hopefully, you can start to see the opportunity of monetizing buyers with more than one revenue stream is pretty exciting. So what are the hybrid options for apps if you were to consider taking this new approach within your own product? First of all, the primary way of doing this would be monetizing users directly via subscriptions and IAP just by themselves. You, of course, can have different combinations using in-app advertising as well, and different combinations of subscriptions and so on. But the purposes of the talk today is to really focus on that first piece, which is direct monetization. So let's now deep dive into this sort of direct monetization opportunity. You might be thinking about your own product and thinking, how could I actually package different features depending on whether I have subscriptions or in-app purchase? Now, there are two ways you can do this. One would be overlapping, where perhaps an in-app purchase could actually just be offering access to a subset of subscription features, or we also have exclusive. So exclusive is where the subscription and the in-app purchase features are fundamentally different, and they provide different or additional value to the main premium offering. So in order to kind of compare the best sort of features that make sense for each type of revenue stream, it's really worth thinking about subscriptions as really unlocking universal long-term value. This can, of course, be around accessing a full content library, full data, full functionality, whereas in general, in-app purchases are more short-term use cases, quite more specific, perhaps seasonal, and also can be used to purchase in-app currency as well. So I'm now going to share with you just some examples of how top developers are taking this approach for a hybrid monetization. And so this is a digital sketching tool called Concepts. Now, initially, they were only focused on selling in-app purchases where users could unlock specific features. They actually had a lot of user feedback suggesting and asking, is there an easier way for me to unlock all features at once, as well as actually just supporting the developer who, of course, for those power users, was offering really interesting features, and they wanted to find better ways to actually show their appreciation. So what Concepts did was create a new subscription offering where they could actually allow users to completely unlock all features at once. And they found that this has worked quite well for them. More casual users access the in-app purchases, whereas the more power users and more engaged users decide to use subscriptions instead. So one more example is the language learning app Tandem. Now, they're a predominantly subscriptions-only business, but they decided to run some tests to see if some of their users would be interested in purchasing a new in-app purchase, specifically an official language certificate. Now, that initial test showed some pretty interesting monetization potential. So the way that it works with their new in-app purchase that they've now got within their app is users will go ahead and complete that language test. And then, as you can see from the screenshot example here, the user can then choose to receive the results and actually download the certificate upon purchasing the in-app purchase. Now, the example here, the features are exclusive and they're non-overlapping. So therefore, there was no threat of this new in-app purchase potentially cannibalizing existing subscription purchases. Another example I'd like to share is the hiking app Komoot. Again, now they were primarily an in-app purchase-based offering. And as you can see from the quote from the product manager from Komoot, they, of course, saw that their core customers really did appreciate these packages. But what they wanted to do was see if they could introduce subscriptions to kind of mitigate reaching that conversion ceiling and help grow their revenue more sustainably. They actually spoke to some of their most engaged users and actually asked them for advice and support on choosing the right features that would make most sense for them. And therefore, they were then able to launch a really interesting subscription product alongside their existing in-app purchase offerings. So one last example before we talk into a bit more detail about how you would go about doing this is the dating app Lavu. Now, they really did quite carefully think about segmenting their user base to make sure that different purchase items targeted different needs. So, for example, more casual users, they were prompted to purchase more lower priced in-app purchases. And it's interesting to see here as well that while, of course, that was quite a clear segment, 10% of those in-app purchase buyers did actually evolve into subscribers over time. Now, in terms of the other segment that they were focusing on is this notion of the high value spender. And so what they were thinking about is what are those sorts of VIP offerings, whether it's badges, one-to-one support, exclusive gifting functionality, that they could also monetize using in-app purchases, but of course at a slightly different price point. So how can hybrid monetization increase revenue sustainably? A good way to sort of visualize this and to think about this for your own product is taking a look at this demand curve and sort of segmenting your monetization products. So you can see here that on the x-axis, you have number of active subscribers or payers, and on the y-axis, subscriber revenue and LTV, which is lifetime value. So it's really about thinking about what's the appropriate sort of mix of offerings to help you really increase the size of this the amount of revenue underneath that demand curve. So looking at two examples that I've briefly alluded to already, let's have a think about your subscriptions offering. Now, of course, one of the challenges if you have like an annual plan or a monthly plan is at some point, of course, that user has paid that amount and you won't expect any more revenue from that particular user. However, if you take a look at the opportunity above it, increasing subscriber lifetime value could be an opportunity with additional in-app purchases targeted to that particular type of user. And on the right-hand side, lower price in-app purchases can really help increase the buyer base, your average revenue per user. But of course, one of the challenges that you have to think about, of course, is how you create unique value for that monetization model so that you're not cannibalizing your subscriptions revenue. So how would you actually now go and start planning and testing changes within your own app? I'm going to talk about three particular ways that you can evaluate the opportunity first. First of all, thinking about your actual app product and the nuances of that. Looking at some particular KPIs that you would like to check to ensure that this could potentially be a good opportunity for you. And thirdly, formulating a really robust hypothesis to then run that test and assess the results accordingly. So in terms of product checks, is your existing product experience limited or indefinite? Of course, that will completely change how you approach this new opportunity. Perhaps you've already received customer feedback indicating demand for different purchase options. You may also see with your existing value proposition that you might be able to find a way to either adjust or develop some of the existing content for one-off use and then package accordingly. And then the other key product check that's really important throughout the next few slides that I'm going to be talking you through is making sure that you really understand where in that user funnel from install all the way through to become a committed user, you're actually presenting that premium value. Because one of the aspects that you want to avoid is confusing the user with multiple options to purchase. So the second way to evaluate the opportunity for hybrid monetization is your KPI checks. Having a look and thinking, or just checking whether you have a high percentage of engaged non-buyers. Perhaps you're already starting to see certain monetization trends flattening. For example, your average revenue per paying user or your conversion rate. If you're a subscription product, maybe you are seeing a high churn of users at subscription upsell or conversion points, or maybe you're not necessarily seeing the types of renewal rates that you would like. That could be an opportunity to mitigate using a different form of monetization for those particular users. And of course, another key aspect of this as well is thinking about your overall user base and are there particular countries that they're from where there might be a particular spending preference, for example, if they prefer to purchase in-app purchases versus subscriptions. And the other way to sort of come up with a compelling hypothesis to then test this opportunity is looking at that and really having a strong defined segment of non-buyers to target with different monetization. And of course, on the flip side, a defined segment of buyers to target to increase that lifetime value as well. And then once you have those two different segments, looking at your user journey and mapping high value versus low value transactions, again, to really avoid any cannibalization with your existing product. So I'm just going to talk you through, we've talked a little bit about this notion of the user funnel, and this really goes back to a lot of the work you may have seen on our Medium articles as well, around kind of bucketing different user actions by user journey state, from installed to onboarded and activated. Now, if you're a subscriptions app, you of course may be more willing to try and prompt your initial brand new users to subscribe first, as you can see from the dotted blue box here. However, you might decide over time, perhaps there's a segment of those users who haven't actually subscribed, and therefore, if they're still activated, committed, and engaged, it might be worth instead kind of showing the in-app purchase value proposition to them at that point. So it doesn't necessarily have to be both options at the same time. And once you've defined those user segments, there will of course be relevant usage and monetization KPIs to bear in mind. Some of the questions that you should answer here is, where in the funnel is the conversion to the highest value product? If you take a look here as well, you can see at the bottom, you may have a user that initially becomes an IAP buyer first, and therefore there are monetization performance KPIs like IAP buyer percentage and IAP buyer lifetime value. But once that person has evolved into being a subscriber as well, you could actually track that as a specific monetization KPI using IAP buyer plus subscriber percentage to really start to understand how this segment is performing compared to the other segments. So just to kind of recap the takeaways here, in terms of your product, reviewing your value proposition, where and how that's presented to your users, understanding the existing use cases from the content that you already have within your app that could either be developed for longer term use cases or repackaged for one-off use cases, thinking about your KPIs where there may actually be existing monetization potential to really capitalize on. And the key thing as well is defining those segments that you will either upsell to subscriptions or to in-app purchases. And then the last topic to kind of keep in mind is that experimentation, identifying that segment for an expanding buyer base, and of course, identifying ways that you can continue to increase buyer lifetime value with that additional monetization model. So thank you so much for your time. I'm now going to pass on over to Vinicius, who will be talking about how to grow sustainably.
Hey, hi, very happy to be here. My name is Vinicius. I will be with you for the next few minutes. I'm from Empirical, and we'll talk a little bit about best practices that we've attained for sustainable growth, some very cool things that we've been doing. So that we can start, just a little bit about myself. My name is Vinicius Bazan. I've been working at Empirical for almost 5 years now. I'm director of product here. Actually, I'm a mechatronics engineer. So I've been dealing with robots and hardware for a few years and working with technology in general for more than 7 years. But for the past few years, I've been working closely with mobile apps. So from 2018 to 2021, I was head of mobile at Empirical. So we had a very cool project, and we still have a very cool project regarding apps. And the thing is that I love data and love getting insights from data, but I'm actually passionate about users and providing them with the best experience that they can have. So this is one of the things we'll cover today. I'm not really sure how familiar you are with Empirical, so I'll just give a brief overview. Empirical is a Brazilian company. It's the biggest financial publisher in Latin America with more than 400K paid subscribers. We produce content on investments and give stocks recommendations for crypto, bonds, and everything that you can think of, so that we can provide a retail investor with recommendations and ideas that are as good as or even better than the ones that a professional investor would have. And for the past years, we've been dealing a lot with those content platforms. We have this super app approach where you can have a one-stop shop for everything that you need, every tool that you need for a good investor. So lots of cool stuff that we've done, along with Google Play as well, have been on our app. And we don't do that alone. Actually, Empirical has 4 other companies in our group and these companies, they complete this cycle of providing this, what we call the 3.0 finance industry. We have Vitrio, which is a online investment platform. We have 2 of the biggest news websites for finance in Brazil, which are Money Times and Seu Dinheiro. And we also have Real Valor, which is a very cool portfolio and tracking app. So let's dive in. we've been learning lots of things about mobile strategy and growth strategy for the past 3 years, and this year in special was very good for us. We had lots of very deep insights on what we can do best and the things that we should improve doing. Um, so we've been joining with Google Play to learn how you can leverage your strategy, and we've been doing so by identifying those key touch points on the user journey that you can really do something to make it really better. And every time that we look at data, we look at behavior, and we look at the user journey, we try to do so by also reviewing the micro strategy in terms of how this specific feature can be done better, or is there any friction that can be removed, as well as in a more like macro strategy. So as the product as a whole, what you can do to have a very cool app. So what we do for that is that we test every single day, and every hypothesis that we have, we do lots of testings, A/B testings, and we gather data to analyze it and drive insights more than just having opinions. So this is very important for us, and by doing so, we can map some opportunities and we can discover things that we weren't looking at. And the next slide will make it even clearer. So this. We done a nice job here of mapping the user journey, and this was actually an input from Google. So how you can like have a great overview of the user journey, how the user flows through your app by beginning on the Play Store page and then downloading, interacting with content, engaging, how retained will the user be, and eventually if the user will churn. So this is a very brief overview. I don't want to go in the specifics, but the thing is, each state in this flow chart represents one step of the user journey, and the numbers from 1 to 10 are a few of the opportunities that we mapped. So things that we knew that could be like separate projects, and things that even, for example, they were good and we could boost it, or they weren't as good and we should work harder on them. So for example, on user acquisition from both paid campaigns and organic campaigns, there were lots of things to do. And the thing that we noticed was that if we could focus on the first few moments of the user interacting with Empiricus, we could drive very nice results. Because one of the things that we notice, and this is very common for the industry in general, is that it's like do or die situation on the first day, the very first day, like day zero of the user's journey. So if we can enhance the experience on Google Play as well as the onboarding process, there are lots of nice results to collect there. So I'll just briefly explain a few of the testings that we've done. There are 4 of them, and we do them every day, so more will come up later. But the first thing that we wanted to run was an experiment on Google Play to check if changing the icon of the app would increase the number of downloads that we had, or even increase the visibility of the app on Google Play. So if you take a look at the first icon, the dark background one on the left upper hand side, you can see the baseline that we had. So this was the basic icon that we had, and we tested other 3 variations to check if doing some small changes would do the trick for us. And the very nice thing was that changing the color wasn't better, but actually inserting the name of the company on the app icon was really great. So and that really makes sense afterwards, because Empiricus is more known by the market from its name than from its icon, which is very abstract. So we had very nice results by just adding the name of the company on the logo. And we ran these 4 variations as a simultaneous experiment on Google Play to get a very statistical result. The next thing that we've done was to change the screenshots that you see on the app page, so to say. We had the first version, the one above, and we saw that for Empiricus, since we are this like super app approach, we have lots of features that combine themselves into one thing. It's very difficult to get right away what we do, or like to get the one specific value that you can drive from the app. So we wanted to kind of dive deeper on those features. And one thing that we've learned actually from one of the forums at Google was that feature education is very important. So there are not many changes if you compare the two images, but two things actually they are key there. The first is to put on this first plane the main features, so you can really highlight them. And the second thing is to have less text and be more like bold on or highlight the most important parts. So this was also very cool for us to really get to the user and tell them what are the features that we have. And this also was an experiment there that enhanced our visibility and downloads. The third thing that we've done, and this is not a single experiment, this is actually what we do on a weekly basis, is to test the description of the app. So we run lots of tests concerning keywords and the length. So every time we try to see how we can improve the ASO strategy. So for example, if crypto is a very hot topic, we try to put it on the description, and we'll drive more search results for Empiricus. Or if stocks are hot right now, we'll change. And we always try to get variations for that and see how this impacts on the end result. And the last thing, this is really cool, and this is not a Google Play experiment. This is actually inside the app. We've tested kind of a onboarding strategy. So since the users would come up to the app and maybe they wouldn't know exactly what we do, what the app is for right away. So we wanted to educate, and we did this in kind of a gamified manner. So we came up with this 7-day challenge with our it is a sequence of 7 days and 7 challenges. And for each challenge that you accomplish, like each mission, you will receive a reward, with the biggest reward in the end, which is a trial for one of our paid products. So we've done this, and for each step, basically, you would have to perform an action that will make you know more about the functionality and the app itself. And this was super cool. You can see the results on the next slide. So just to summarize here what we have by combining all those 4 experiments, and we do, as I said, lots of them every time so that we can boost the results even better. We had more than 80% uplift on store listing visitors. And we also have almost 200% store listing acquisitions uplift from Google Play Explore. And these 2 results came mainly from the experiments that we ran. And concerning the onboarding tests for the 7-day challenge, was super cool that we had 7 times more users returning to the app after they went through the 7-day challenge, if you compare that to the control group who didn't receive any communications at all. And we had 2.3 times higher 4-week retention rate for the users who went through the 7-day challenge as well. So you can see how combining all those things can really boost both your conversion for installations and also the retention and reduce churn. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed it and can give insights for your strategy. So next up, I'll call Pedro Lage from 12 Minutos. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, I'm Pedro from 12 Min. Thanks Vinicius for the introduction and for the great presentation. I will talk a little bit more about what we have learned with Google. We've been part of the Google ecosystem since 2019, so we have learned a lot, and we keep going and learning a lot with you guys. Just to go to the first slide, I will talk faster a little bit more about me. I'm a guy from international relations, but always been involved in technology, and I started to work in startups in 2013. And I started here on 12Me as a customer success analyst. Then I go further in the product thing and everything that we have learned that brings me right here. And I really love to build the products that can generate positive impact in the user's life. That's why I really enjoy to be work here on 12Me, because I know that our product can impact people. And going further, we have like a motto: if you could learn something new in only 12 minutes a day. This is something that we try to bring to the people's life. Is to, we know that everybody right now don't have the proper time to do the work and mix it with the studying and these kind of things. So 12 minutes is to help the people on this. And just to you guys to understand a little bit more about our history, we are the first movers in Latam about microbooks and the summaries of books. More than 50% of our users right now are outside Brazil. We started with a large range of users from here, but now we have more than half from the users outside Brazil. We are, like I was saying, a member of Google for Startups program in 2019. And we always looking for experimentation. Everything that we do inside products is experiment focus and focus on the growth, about doing and experimenting things, doing the right things. And we really love diversity. We have a very diverse team, and we have people from around the world. And I really think this helps us to build the culture that we have today. Going further, what we have learned in the previous Google Play events, we have learned that the good first impression is fundamental. The awareness and time for value, the personalization of the journeys, and the engagement is like a continuous process, not just something that we do one day and not the other, and different communication through push and email. So, talking for the first point that I was saying, the good first impression is fundamental. Here we have the new welcome screen from 12Me. We have tried some different things, but when we learn these kind of things to see this first value, we start to experiment not just for what we do after the user install the app and be a signed up user. We try to read them by the store and try to reach them by the welcome screen. We tested new copies and new images for the welcome screen that, like you guys can see, we try to focus on the daily basis. We know that the users use 12Me as a complementary for his day, use like doing home chores or working, this kind of things. We tested new images and descriptions in the Play Store. This is something that we have some good effects, something that Vinicius have talked about it too. So you guys have two cases that this really works, so it's a good example. And we have an increase in the signups, because when we are having this good first impression, the user tend to be more focused on do the sign up and you really use the app. Reducing time to value, this is something that very important. I will say a little bit more about this experimentation that we have done for the onboarding. When we learn these kind of things about the reducing the time to value with the guys, I think Andy have talked a lot about these things. We was going to be a little radical. We just cut off the onboarding for the first time, but we saw that it's not just about to cut the steps, it's about do the right steps. So we reduce the time to value, delivering a quality first experience, but a clear onboard is necessary to drive awareness. So that's why we bring this selection of goals, so we can provide for the users the right microbook, the things that he really wants to see, he really wants to learn. So this is why it's so important to us to have this kind of things. We're still doing some experimentation on the onboarding thing. Actually, right now we were running 2 experiments about the onboarding, and after more talks we can bring even more information about it. Here's I'm trying to bring like a step-by-step of what we are doing. We are talking about the welcome screen, then the onboarding, and here is the discovery screen. Here's the first screen that you saw the app after the onboarding. So we bring the book of the day, we bring the categories, and in this section, we love for you is the section that we bring the books focus for the users, what he's selecting, what he really wants to learn. And this is pretty important for us. The book of the day is something that we have personalized it too. We bring the book of the day based in the user's choice. So we will see the book of the day and the books then they're selected for the For You section are focused on what you really want. This is about to bring the user what he really want more than just try to put something like you should learn about it, you should read this kind of book and you should read this. Is about what you really want to learn. The engagement is a continuous process. This is something very important. This is something I think Vinicius have shown something similar on this, and this is how important the journeys are for us. And here what I'm showing is just the flux for the push notifications. We have the sign up and we have this activation flows, and even each step the user do and what he didn't do, we bring a new approach and we bring some new information. We bring some things that we can use to really give the value to him. So activation leads to engage, that leads to retention. This is very true. We find out this is very true, and I guess some of you guys already know this. So we try to bring every step for the user so the experience can be complete in this first side. The first side that I'm saying about is the activation. When I'm saying about activation, is for the user to finish his first book. So we know that we are bringing the value when we know that the user have finished his first book. And as a habit app, we want to be a part of the user's routine. That's what I was talking about. We have personalized things for the time zones. We have personalized things for other different things like in the morning, during the lunch and this kind of things. And we already saw that we have some aspects for the users that are common. Users use a lot of the app in the morning while they are taking his coffee and this kind of things. And that's why it's so important to build this kind of flux, because we have to be part of the user's routine. More than bring them what they should do, we have to adapt to their routine so we can bring something good for his day. So that's what we are focused on, and that's why we have this personalization for the email flux, for the pushes, I'm sorry. Like I was saying, for the email, this is something that really got stuck in my mind when Andy, again, I think it was Andy, have said about there's different things that you communicate in the push and that you communicate in the email. We don't have the space, we don't have the right things to show the user in the push, because we can put like 2 or 3 phrases and is more actionable, bringing them more to the app. And when we talk about email, we can provide more information, we can provide more content, and that's why it's so important to create like a combo, the emails working and talking with the pushes. So that's why I'm bringing this right here. The emails can deliver more valuable information than push, so we must use it differently, bringing more information. This can serve as a complement for the onboarding process. It can serve as a complement for the retention, or you can use in the other side. We actually use push notification as the main communication tool, but we already know the email can be powerful as it can be for the pushes. And it's different because some kind of users and some kind of apps can bring different users and can have different style of uses, but it's pretty important to have like this combo, emails talking to pushes, and the user got all the information that he need and got everything on place to really understand and enjoy the app. Like I was saying, the good learnings bring the good results, and in our growth path for you guys to understand, after all these kind of things, all these things that we have done with what we have learned with the Google and with everybody and the guys, and share information with other companies, we were able to increase the organic installs by 100% after we have changed the descriptions and the images in the Play Store. And this is pretty awesome because it's a small change that bring a huge result. So you guys can imagine how this was important to us. We have 100% of growth about it. The welcome screen, it's another step because he's not in the install tank, but it's pretty important too for have this first vision of the app. We reduced the time to value from 45 minutes to 35 minutes. This is the time that the user have taken to finish his first microbook in the media. And of course, we have users that right away he do the onboarding and start to listen a microbook and enjoy the app right when he installs. But if you put in a perspective, maybe during the day you don't have the time to do this immediately. You have the interest for the app, but you're gonna take a look deeper after you work and after doing something, you know. And when we are able to see this reduction of 11 minutes, I think this is pretty nice to us because we are seeing that the users are giving this feeling that they got inside the app and they really want to use the app. So this is why it's pretty nice, and I want to bring this info for you guys. We increased the sign-up rates by 10%. I don't know about the benchmarks that you guys have, but for us, this is a huge increase. We were struggling a little bit about the sign-up rate for the staunch sign-ups. We have a little struggling, and after the change that I have shown you guys in the beginning of my presentation, we were able to increase this by 10%, and we are already thinking about optimizations on this. We will be a step for us in the first quarter of 2022, and that's why I want to bring this info. And we increased the book start rates by 7%. Again, maybe don't look like it's too much, but if you put in a perspective that our main goal for the first user, for the first session, for the first experience for the user is the book started, you can imagine how this can affect the book finish in the conversions in the end of the day. I'm sorry, I just see if I have some other screens. I think this is it. Thank you guys very much. Muchas gracias. And I'm handing over back to Patrick.
A huge thank you to all of your speakers today. I hope you enjoyed the content for today. And remember, we still have a track in the end of the day. It's going to be called Developing for Success. Be aware that this track will be more technical, so we're going to talk about code. So if you want to, feel free to join us. And this is the LATAM Apps week, so we still have a lot of content during this week. So we'll share some content on your email inbox, so be aware of that. And on the end of the event, you're going to see a link for feedback. So please take a minute to express, to feel how we did today. And see you in a couple of hours for the last track of the day. Ciao.